Let's do this. The Cult Hockey Podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How you doing tonight?
I think you can tell how I'm doing by how long it takes me to say the Bruce. Usually, if you timed it on nights when the Oilers have done well, it's a little longer. I'm doing great, Bruce. That was no Oilers badly injured against the Flames. 4-1 victory, winning the season series against them, hammering shut their coffin in terms of the Flames' playoff hopes. 3 points for McD on his path to 100 points. And, I've been listening all day to the audiobook of Game of Thrones, which also has given me a great amount of joy. I don't know if you've ever heard the audio book, but it is fantastic. And I would recommend, if you're on Audible and you listen to books, it's just a great way to, as you're doing some housework, to pass the time. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm drinking a big red toast to the Calgary Flames departure from the playoff picture, which I think is pretty much assured with tonight's results. Yeah. Had to be a bitterly disappointing for them what happened in Montreal, where Ottawa had Montreal down 2-0 almost halfway through the third period, and the Habs fought back with some good desperation hockey. They really did take over the game, and they scored two to tie it. Almost had another that was disallowed on goalie interference, but then eventually won it in overtime on the Cole Caulfield, Dylan Holloway's old teammate. First NHL goal in overtime in a key game. That's the way to do it, and a beauty too. Anyways, that had to be a stake in the heart of the Flames that were maybe starting to think, we could gain 2 points on Montreal tonight if Ottawa can finish the job. And having first-hand experience of having Ottawa finishing the job on them over and over again 6 times this year, Calgary lost to Ottawa. It would be a double disappointment. And then they came out and Edmonton just took it to them right from the beginning. And the Oilers owned basically first 15 minutes of that game. And then Calgary gradually started to dominate the possession and territorial play. And they cut it 2-1, but that's as close as they got, and a couple of late empty netters, and it wound up 4-1. It was not a 4-1 game. It was closer than that, but Edmonton won it, and Calgary's going down.
Yeah, Bruce, the interesting thing is Montreal now and Winnipeg have both played 50 games, toast to that. 50 games. We should do a virtual fist bump, Bruce, over the Flames going down. Montreal and Winnipeg have only played 50 games. That gave me a lot of joy doing the virtual fist bump, I have to say.
It was fun.
Yeah, 50 games, and Montreal's now just 2 points behind Winnipeg. I don't want to play the Habs in the first round, so I hope Winnipeg can hang on there. We'll see what happens. The Oilers can control that somewhat by beating Montreal in their upcoming games. Bruce, this is our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast. And because it's a fine Oilers victory, we'll do 2 good things each. What is your first good thing?
Well, I got to go back to the well. Last game I credited Mike Smith with a huge save that kept the Oilers in the game. And then I'm going to credit his overall performance, in which he stopped 29 of 30 shots on the night, but one save that stands far above any of the others in my eyes, which happened about 6 minutes into the first period. And this was after Edmonton had absolutely dominated the opening going and had several great chances, scored a deserved goal, and easily could have had a couple more, but for Jacob Markstrom. And then all of a sudden, almost out of nowhere, Calgary manufactured this one great chance, one-timer from the slot, from the deadly Andrew Mangiapane, who did not miss. And Smith flashed out the pad and got a piece of that shot. And to me, that was a game turner right then and there. And I know you said the same thing in the notes. If Calgary scores there, after Edmonton's carried all the play to that point, and they come down and get one chance and it goes in the net, then guess who's got the momentum? And guess who's got the hot goalie? But Smith answered the saves that have been made by Markstrom to that point with a huge, huge save of his own. And the Oilers scored the 2-0 goal shortly thereafter, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that save alone deserves a round of applause. That was, they talk about timely saves. That was a timely save.
Certainly was. He had 11 grade A shots against him, Bruce, and he let in one goal. 11 grade A shots, you'd expect 2 or 3 goals against,
Yep.
but Mike Smith has been getting it done. He has been getting it done, Bruce. Just going to check his real quick here. Games played.
Must be back up to 923, is he? After
tonight. Where does he rank?
Maybe even 924. He had a 967 posted tonight, so
920. I don't know if they've added in the game yet. 922.
That was before tonight. Yeah.
20. Okay, they haven't added in his game tonight, so we can't update you. Yeah.
Geezer keeps kicking them out, doesn't he?
It's amazing. 39 years old.
Yeah.
It's the second coming of Johnny Bauer here. On that particular play, I thought Ryan McLeod has done well at center, but that was his one gaffe where he kind of got sucked into the corner there. Barry lost the battle and Nurse doesn't prevent the pass out, and McLeod's there. Instead of being in the slot covering his man, he was behind the net a little bit. A very fast developing play, but McLeod has held his own. And I'm going to segue into my first good thing, which I thought was the play of that line.
Mm-hmm.
As everyone knows, I'm not a huge fan of combining McDavid and Draisaitl, but it's mainly because, in large part, it's because of how the other lines play when they're not split up. And I liked it when Tippett made this decision to go with Puljujarvi, Nugent Hopkins, and McLeod today. I thought that might work. McLeod has shown enough in his short time that he maybe is going to hang in there. And I thought that line did. They created a number of scoring chances. Nuge had a couple dangerous ones in the third period at the working his way in there, and then there was one in the second period as well. Or was that early in the third period? Yeah, early in the third period. So three grade A scoring shots for Nugent Hopkins in the third period as the Oilers were holding a lead. They're all big. Well, Nuge isn't big, but they're all very fast players. And McLeod and Puljujarvi are big players. Puljujarvi's become quite a physical player. McLeod isn't a physical player, but he's really handling the puck with confidence. And there was one rush there where, you have that split second, who is that? And I thought, is that McDavid? And it was McLeod. He was just the same size, same speed, and he made a really nice move with the puck. I sometimes have that same thing with Devon Shore, where you think, who is that? And he'll look for McDavid for a split second. Too bad it's not more seconds in each game. But McLeod is a very promising hockey player, Bruce. I think it's fair to say at this point. At least he seemed to be that way in his audition in the NHL. He looks like he's got the right toolkit. He is not a physical player, and the key is going to be his defensive play and covering that defensive slot if he can get that right, because he's got lots going for him. And we'll see if this second line works out. If they can get some points, that would be great. But if they keep getting the grade A chances, they will get some points.
Yeah, they certainly had by far the better of the flow of play tonight. Shots were 7-3 for Nugent Hopkins, and for McLeod 7-4, and for Puljujarvi, I thought had an excellent game, 8-2. The Oilers outshot the Flames while he was out there, and he was disrupting the play a lot, and he was pissing off the Flames a little bit. And generally, I think Jessa enjoys playing against the Flames. He's had a string of good results and goals against them. Almost 25% of his career goals have been scored against Calgary.
Well, I wonder if it's hearing, the Oilers should have drafted Tkachuk and not Puljujarvi, hearing that enough, maybe. I don't know if he hears that at all. Maybe he's smart enough to stay off the internet and not listen to sports talk radio. But that has been said enough. I really liked his play on the first chance that line had early in the third period. That's one where McLeod steams in there real fast and sets up R&H for a very tricky shot at the side of the net. But it was so tricky in large part because Markstrom didn't know where it was going, and Puljujarvi had moved in there like a snowplow and was creating chaos in front of the net. So good for Jesse Puljujärvi. Bruce, what is your second good thing?
One second good thing happens on the exact same continuation of the exact same sequence of my first good thing, but almost a minute later, the play carried on and carried on. There was a line change, and out came the big boys of of Draisaitl, McDavid, and Yamamoto. Well, they're not all big, but you know what I mean. The big line.
You had it right initially, and then, yeah.
Along with Jones and Bear. And they came rushing up the ice. First of all, Jones sent a nice pass out, and Draisaitl came barreling up the wing, and he fired a hard shot that caught Markstrom high up. I'm not even sure if it didn't gong him in the mask, or it's certainly high in the shoulder. And there was a loose puck and a bit of chaos in the Calgary zone, and the Oilers just absolutely took over. Yamamoto recovered the rebound. He fed it back to Jones at the point. He fed it over to Bear at the other point. He fed it up the boards to Draisaitl. He found McDavid circling behind him, and that's where McDavid cut into the middle of the slot and opened up the Calgary defense like a can opener, and then slipped a cross-ice pass over to Bear, who hammered home the one-timer. And you know what? All five guys made a pass. Bear handled the puck twice, the second time being a shot. All five guys received and made a pass in a 10-second span there. It was like what you call the virtuous cycle, but it was a very short and perfect one. It took 10 seconds from puck recovery to puck in the net. And I love the whole sequence, and I argued, and then ultimately unsuccessfully with you, and technically you were correct, that I thought it was a play where we should credit all five guys on the scoring play for doing their jobs and doing it well, resulting in a goal, because that was a great team goal, even though it was ultimately a great individual play by who else, 97. But their work and their fast cycling and their skating, they were moving while they were cycling the puck, and that was the key. And it was that movement that got the Calgary defense moving, that opened up that gash into the middle for McDavid to take full advantage of, as only he can, or as especially he can.
You called him a can opener. He's like a Swiss Army knife, except he's just one part of the knife, the big blade, constantly slashing open the opposing defense, and he sure did on that play. What a fantastic move that he made into the slot. And he was on tonight. Both he and Draisaitl looked a lot better. They were just flying out there tonight and determined to get something done.
Especially in the first period.
Yeah, they slowed down a bit, which segues into my second good thing. The Oilers had established what was the lead at that point? A 2-1 lead, but the Flames are coming on late in the second period. They got from the last 10 minutes of the second period, the scoring chances were 5 grade A chances for the Flames, 0 for the Oilers, and Flames had also scored a goal. They had the momentum, and with a minute left, they had a really, really good chance where there was a tough shot on net and there was a rebound chance that just missed the net. They could have easily gone in. Minute left. I think it's Gaudreau's line that's out there, and they are just creating chaos in the Oilers' end. And who comes to the rescue is my good thing. Adam Larsson. Bruce, I just thought he had a great game. I really admire this player. I think when you're a kid, you really love the offensive talent, and I still do. I love Connor McDavid's game and the way he plays hockey. As an adult, I've come to really admire the defensive players as well. And Adam Larsson is the epitome this year of an outstanding shutdown defensive defenseman. And in that last minute of play, he showed why people like John Shannon say he is the priority for the Oilers for signing in the offseason in terms of internal free agents. And it's a position that most Oiler fans don't agree with. They would say RNH, but I agree with John Shannon that Larsson is the priority. With about 30 seconds left and the Flames are putting on all kinds of pressure, Buddy Robinson comes down, takes a shot, and Larsson's in the way of it. Comes out to Tkachuk, and it's even a more dangerous shot, and Larsson again blocks it. Puck goes behind the net. Again, they're threatening. It's scary as hell. And who blocks that pass out front? Larsson, and it goes flying out of the zone. They come back in and they get one more shot from the point, and who blocks it? Adam Larsson. 4 great defensive plays within about 35 seconds.
Wow.
He has been he kept a clean sheet tonight, Bruce. He is by far, well, he's not by far. He is the Oilers defenseman who is least likely to make a major mistake on a grade A chance against. And he's moving the puck fairly well as well. I understand that he's a little bit older. He's had injury problems in the past, so you have to be careful in terms of term. But I think he's just fantastic. I admire this player a lot, and hope the Oilers can find a way to bring him back. And again, I would sign him sooner than later, because if the Oilers go on a playoff run, he's going to be a key part of it, and he's not going to get any cheaper.
Yeah, he's not going to get any cheaper, that's for sure. So Larsson tonight, he played 23 minutes, almost 24 minutes on the right side of the second pairing, and of course in the third pairing he played a little bit more than he normally would, but I loved his game. I mean, that's you pointed out that sequence, but I just noticed how many times that there would be pressure in the Oilers zone, and then the puck would go from the Oilers defensive left side to the Oilers defensive right side, and from there the trouble would quickly be quelled, and the puck would be going out, not necessarily going far, but going in the right direction. And because Larsson would have mashed some guy in the corner and taken him out of the play to break the cycle, or he would have got the puck and made a calm but safe clearing play with it, which he did a lot of times in this game, or just short pass, but he's so composed, and he's been so big in these games. And we've seen a lot of these games, David, now where the Oilers are ahead 2-1, 3-2 for the whole third period, and just sort of whiling away the clock. And he's a master of keeping things simple, keeping the play to the outside, and when he gets a guy in the corner, to lay a bit of a lick on the guy. He's tough.
6 hits.
He so reminds me of Jason Smith, and Jason Smith is a player who I loved when he was here, and I'm very, very fond of Adam Larsson, I have to admit. As I've mentioned, as an old goalie, I like the D-men who can take their pound of flesh while they're also making the defensive plays, and that's Larsson, and he's gotten a grade of 8 from me tonight. The shot metrics say that Calgary had 23 shot attempts to 12 when Larsson was on the ice, but the shots on goal were only 8 to 9, and the high danger scoring chances were 4 for the Oilers and 2 for the Flames. So for all the possession that they had in Edmonton territory, not much of it became anything dangerous in front of the net. And as you say, we dinged Larsson with 0 mistakes on anything that became a serious Calgary chance. So just another rock solid game from the Big Swede.
Yeah, 6 hits, 4 block shots.
Yeah.
I'd be tempted to think of a 9. Like it's like in terms of defensive effort, like it's great game for sure. Maybe even more than that. Like if you think about it, because of his import to the team. Like he's also playing tough minutes, and we see again Tippett going to his standard thing, right? 10 minutes left. You don't see Tyson Barrie or Caleb Jones on the ice. He goes with Kulikov, Larsson, and Bear and Nurse, and it's working out. And I think they can handle those minutes towards the end of a game. They do just fine. There tends to be like timeouts and breaks, especially right at the end. So Kulikov was also a little bit better. There was one slip up, but he was a little bit better than I thought. Their partnership looked a little more settled tonight in terms of reading each other, moving the puck. So we'll see how that develops. Time to move on to our bad things, Bruce. Your bad thing was?
Well, I got to single out that one Calgary goal, as being the bad thing. And what I didn't like about it was the cardinal mistake of a team with a multi-goal lead somehow getting burned for a clear breakaway. And that has to do with defensemen just not being sharp on their job. And this time I'm going to have to single out Caleb Jones. who on a standard routine transition play was beaten by the long bomb pass up the boards to Matthew Tkachuk, who got behind Jones to such a degree that he was able to receive that pass and burst in on goal and get a good shot away without uh, any real attempt to check from well, he was just too far back to be able to make a play on him. And Smith did make the save, but the rebound bounced past Ethan Bear onto the stick of Johnny Gaudreau, who doesn't know what to do with it, and he did that thing. And Bear, poor Bear, he almost got his skates in front of it, but I think the shot went right in between his skates and found a hole. And it was a play where, I mean, Smith kicked out the rebound, sure, but the big mistake was made by the defender who let the Calgary forward get in behind him for a breakaway. So that was my bad thing.
I love Caleb Jones even now with the puck on his stick. He can really move the puck, and he seems to be having quite a bit of confidence right now and success moving the puck. He and Bear, both sharp players with the puck, and they seem to be synced up together. And I think I overall kind of prefer Jones to Chris Russell if I had to pick. But Bruce, this we track major mistakes on grade A scoring chances against, and he leads the team for defenseman, and it's not really that close. He and Barry really struggles in that area, but Jones has just had a tough year, and that's the kind of play that there's some fans who are totally mystified why Dave Tippett doesn't trust Jones more. That's the kind of play that typifies it. That's why, and we could, if you're, we'll give you our document. You can search if you have NHL.com. You can go back and look at the video. We've time-stamped all of his mistakes. You can check them out. This happens. This is real. No, people aren't making it up. The coach isn't smoking something. Jones has struggled on defense, and until he stops struggling like that, the coach isn't going to trust him. And you could say, oh, well, other defensemen got beat on rushes, and that one just ended up as a goal. But here's the difference, Bruce. Kulikov and Nurse both got beat for 2-on-1s in similar circumstances, but both of those came on the dread offensive zone turnover at the blue line,
right? And
the defense has less chance to react. And so Nuge on the one play and Draisaitl on the other, they both turned it over, and the defense, they're caught out, and they can get caught on a 2-on-1 in those situations. There wasn't that kind of turnover with when Jones was out there. He just needs to play that better. And I think he will. I still think he's going to be a really good NHL defenseman. I have that hope for him. Got to stop that kind of play, though. He can't make it.
Yeah, maybe in Seattle. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but it's, I mean, he's clearly losing the confidence of his coach. 9 minutes and 9 seconds he played tonight. 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And Darnell Nurse played 31 minutes and 34 seconds. So basically, he played his own shifts, and Jones is in the third period, I think, is how it must have worked out. I haven't looked at that in detail yet, but Nurse, holy moly, played 13 minutes in the second period and 10 in the third.
Darnell's in the rocking chair for a lot of that time. I think he can actually handle those minutes without suffering greatly, because he's playing such a smart, heady game, Nurse, this year. I just it doesn't bother me to see him getting the major minutes like that, honestly, because I think he doesn't get hit a lot. He's not playing an overly physical game himself, going for the big hit. He's just playing smart Doug Harvey hockey. So,
well, Jones on that shift that the goal was scored halfway through the second period was an 18-second shift, and he came off and he never saw the ice again in the second period. And the third period, he played just 3 shifts in 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So clearly an afterthought. And I bet you if you go and you look hard at those shifts, and he never saw the ice in the last 13 minutes of the game. That the Oilers, that was 2-1 the whole time, of course, but they were protecting the lead, and the reason the lead had been cut in half was because he'd made a major mistake. And Tippett's he's coaching to win the game. I mean,
it's all about winning.
Yeah, and I will say, and I already did say that Jones is part of that five-man virtuous cycle on the first Oilers
He
goal.
was.
Like he does have the skills to skate with the play, to move the puck well, and he does positive things in the game too. But some of those defensive mistakes are of type glaring, and tonight's was one.
I wonder if we'll see Bouchard go in like with the four right shot with the four right shot D formation. I wouldn't. It's a possibility at this point, Bruce. We could see that happen sooner than later. Because who are you going to bench on the right side? None of those guys deserve to be benched. Barry, Larsson, and Bear. But there is a spot. It's not ideal for Bouchard, but it's garbage time of the season.
It
The Oilers are
is.
firmly ensconced in second place. It's time, Coach.
This is the thing.
Usually I say, Coach, don't listen to it. Don't listen to the cult of hockey. Ignore us completely. Do your own thing. You have better information than us. But I hope he listens to that. Not that
Well,
he
they
listens.
are locked, I think, firmly locked in second place now.
Yeah.
5 points ahead of seven, or is it even 9 points behind Toronto?
Yeah.
And the Oilers have a game in hand on the Jets.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just, I don't see any way that, I mean, Winnipeg needs to get their crap together not to fall to fourth place, let alone make any inroads on Edmonton. I mean, the Oilers this week went 3-1, and they gained 6 points on the Jets. So that race is virtually over. They're not catching Toronto. They're watching as interested bystanders to see who they're going to be playing in the first round of the playoffs. But they're, I think, home and cooled out. And especially next week, like the next four games are all against Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah. Play the
Playing on
kid.
fumes already. And I mean, the Oilers, I mean, if they really wanted to take it to them, they could. I don't think they will want to take it to them. And I think one of the ways they will resist taking it to them is by tinkering with the lineup and getting some of these guys a little lower down a game. Maybe give Adam Larsson a game off, or maybe give
Yeah. Fair
Barry
enough.
use Evan Bouchard at his natural position. Uh, Barry, hard to say because he's in a contract year, and he came here to put up the numbers, and he probably might be a little resistant to getting pulled, but maybe one game off wouldn't go amiss. And same for Larsson, who's been a horse. But if they're playing games that they don't need to win, and especially if they're playing games against a team that they should beat, even if they're down a court, maybe maybe they'll play that different. And I think tonight's results basically cement them in second, and it ends Calgary's hopes of a playoff run altogether. Now 8 points back with 7 to play.
Yeah. It just breaks my heart. Bruce, my bad thing.
Not a Flames fan, sorry. Never have been.
All right. Everyone watching at home, virtual fist bump. Virtual
I
fist
kind of
bump.
like the Atlanta Flames there that one time when they had Bobby McMillan and Guy Chouinard, but Calgary Flames, no.
Bobby Leader, wasn't he
Yeah,
their initial? Dave Shand, Richard Mulhern.
hmm,
Okay,
good.
mandatory 1970 sports reference. We can go, so we can sleep easy tonight, Bruce. Um, my bad thing was the final empty net goal. One too many passes, Bruce. One too many
Mhm.
passes, because if Archibald had put that puck in the net, Connor McDavid would have got another assist. I was overjoyed when he got the cheapy assist on the first empty net goal, because he's chasing 100 points. I'd like to see him. I just think that would be fantastic. It would look so great in the record books, and it would kind of stand out for years to come in terms of numbers. To have that nice round 100 in 56 games.
I stop at 100.
I
Doesn't
hear you.
necessarily be round.
Um, he's got 87 points now in 49 games and 1.78 points per game. He needs 13 points in his last 7 games. So here's hoping, Bruce. Here's hoping. It's certainly possible he could run out. He could have a couple big games against the Canucks and get right close right there. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's not the biggest issue with the Oilers. It's not that important. He's indicated he doesn't think it's that important, but I still would love to see it. And I love to see him get cheapy goals, cheapy points, because, he makes so many great plays where he doesn't get the point, that it's nice to see it even out now and then with that empty netter.
Yeah, well, he's now, tonight he actually lost ground to the runner-up Leon Draisaitl, had 4
Yeah.
points to McDavid's 3, because he wound up getting the second assist on that last empty netter. But he's now in 87 to 71, and third place is way back in 64. So the nearest non-Oiler is 23 points behind McDavid, 23 points. And McDavid has games in hand on many of the leaders, because a lot of the American teams are getting close to the end of their schedule.
Indeed. Your number, Bruce.
Oh, yeah, I have a number, and then I used it already when I talked about Nurse's ice time. And you used the one about Larson's hits and block shots. Why don't you go first, and I'll find another number here.
Okay. I'm just looking at Larsson or Nurse's numbers, Bruce. The one good thing about that empty net goal is Darnell Nurse scored it, right? Archibald, and so that boosts Darnell Nurse's chance of being a Norris Trophy final every goal he gets. Like if he can, I don't know who the leading defenseman is. Let me just check this. Who did the leading defenseman?
That's going to cost the Oilers on his next contract, David. Don't you know that's the big worry every time he gets a point?
I'll take it. I know these things are true, Bruce.
15 goals.
Listen, he's going to get paid now, right? This is everyone's starting to get at peace with that. Maybe like I'm at peace with it. Like he is going to get paid, and he deserves to get paid at this point. Like I'm not going to. We'll see. Maybe if he does. Maybe if his game somehow falls apart in the playoffs, that could be a different story. But I don't really see that happening at this point. He is playing with a lot more confidence with the puck. Let me just find here all skaters, forwards, defensemen, get stats. Darnell Nurse has goals. This will be my number, I guess, because I've spent so much time on it. He's got 15 goals. The leader is Jacob Chychrun with 16. So he's one behind the NHL leader. If he can take over that lead and lead the NHL in goal scoring, be one of the top plus minus defensemen. Let's see where he is there. He's plus 26. Shea Theodore he's in fourth. Shea Theodore is plus 28. There's going to be a few
scrap there,
huge major statistical indicators that time on ice, I think he's second for even strength time on ice. This is a serious candidate for the Norris Trophy. And go ahead.
Even strength goals, 14 for Nurse, 13 for Chychrun, 8 for the next guy behind the two of them. Like they're way out in front.
And Nurse doesn't even play the power play that much.
No, that's even strength goals. That's where he gets
that's
goals.
right.
If he played in the power play, he'd be closing in on 20. You'd have to think.
Yeah, you would.
He's only played 49 games. I mean, if it was a full season, you'd have to think he would get to 20, and that's a great total for a defenseman.
Yeah. One thing we haven't seen is Tyson Barrie has a great shot on the power play. Evan Bouchard has that great shot. We don't know if Nurse could get it through like Barrie does with that kind of efficiency. Like a lot of it is quickness, getting off that shot, and he's more of a big wind-up guy. He's a great shooter off the rush. I'm not sure though, like kind of that set shooter. Clefbaum struggled with a little bit. I don't know how effective Nurse would be if he was the top power play guy, but I'm not counting him out at this point, Bruce, because his game just keeps getting better. Don't you think? I think he's taken a step up. So, have you found a number?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna dump a little bit on the Oilers' bottom six, who got kind of owned in the possession tonight.
Yeah.
And they had one line that never even got a shot on net, the Devon Shore between James Neal and Alex Chason line.
Yeah.
That just looked a little bit slow and a little bit of a step behind, I would say, all three guys. And they had, possession numbers like for sure 2 shot attempts for 12 against, for Chason 2 to 14. And then the other bottom six line, Gaetan Haas, 3 shot attempts to 11 against. So that bottom six was spending uh, quite a lot too much time for my liking at their own end of the ice. And when they could get it out, they could get it. They might be able to get it to center, and then it would be coming right back in again. Like they weren't getting it deep, and they weren't establishing any zone time or forecheck really in the Calgary territory. And you'd like to get more than that from your bottom six, even if the first line's looking after all the goals. You'd like them to at least be mucking it up in the middle of the ice rather than behind their own hash marks kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not. So Cassian and we hope Kara will come back, right? So we could see some changes in that group. Maybe McLeod moving down again to the bottom group. So there's still things that could happen. We might even see Tyler Benson get called up at some point. Given how McLeod's worked out, maybe they'll think, hey, Tyler Benson was playing pretty darn good down there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that, I'm not sold on Shore as a center. For the bottom lines. I thought Gaetan Haas actually had a better game tonight. He was more effective than he has been.
He blocked 3 shots, so he made some of that zone possession go away by blocking shots. But he gets the puck and he scoots through the neutral zone, and it almost never goes anywhere once he hits the attacking blue line.
That is a fair comment, Bruce. He had one incredible block, which was so gutsy. I think it was on the short-handed situation, maybe in the third, if I'm not mistaken, where it was just a wicked shot, and he went to block it, which showed incredible guts. But it didn't. I don't think it hit his body. I think it hit his stick, and fortunately didn't hit him in the body, and it knocked his stick out of his hands. But that was a very key block from Gaetan Haas. So, all right, have we covered it, Bruce? What are you? Any final thoughts or other thoughts?
Well, Edmonton's now 15 ahead of Calgary with 6 to play. So Calgary will not be catching Edmonton for sure. That's guaranteed. And let me check now. I think it's probably worth our while to. I mean, Vancouver's still got games to play, but they've been losing most of their games. This is something I should have looked at before we started. Sorry. Just looking quickly at the standings.
Vancouver,
and we have Vancouver
games.
41 with 11 games to play. So they could still get to 63, and Edmonton's at 62. So technically, if Vancouver goes 11-0 and Edmonton goes 0-7-0, they would beat Oilers by 1 point. I don't think that's going to happen, do you?
No, the poor Canucks are.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's as close to a mathematical certainty as you could possibly get without it quite being one. And Vancouver, I mean, the Oilers play Vancouver on Monday, and if they even snare 1 point from that game, they'll be mathematically clinched in the playoffs. And I kind of think they're a pretty good bet to get 2 points from that game and the subsequent games. So they're in, and so good on the Oilers, and hopefully this year they'll
Vancouver's. Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead and play regular playoffs with 16 teams and not 24 like all the extra pretenders they invited in last year.
Yeah, that turned out to be. Vancouver's better. Like Bruce, they're better off tanking at this point. That's the truth about the Canucks. Like, they're in the running for a high draft pick. It's not a particularly miraculous draft, is my understanding. But you never know, and anyway, they'll struggle. They will struggle through. I feel sorry for the Canucks fans this year. I don't feel, I don't have the same feelings about Flames fans or Habs fans or Leafs fans ever. Sometimes Leafs fans, because there's lots of good Leafs fans. But the Canucks fans, man, that was a promising team in a lot of ways, and they just had just one thing after another. Pettersson got hurt and COVID, obviously, just tough.
They had to play 24 games in the first 44 days, and they were killed by the schedule before the COVID even got to them. They were out of contention because they had played they were just running on fumes by about the middle of February because they never got any time off and they kept getting back-to-backs. I think they had 5 or 6 back-to-backs before they ever had 2 days, even 2 days between games. And then they had this big rest period opening up before them. And it was the 24th of March was the last game that they played. And they had a whole week off that they were finally going to get a break. And that was the week that they got hit with the COVID. And by the time they did play again, it was April 16th or whatever the hell it was. And they had then to stack a whole bunch of games in the last month of the season. So they wound up getting these 2 heavy doses of hockey with these wide open spaces in between. It was just untenable. And then throw in the illness and the chaos. And now the bad news with Jake Virtanen, and it's just been a horrendous nightmare of a season for
Really has.
the other fans who I wouldn't feel sorry for, but I don't have to because they don't have to attend any games, I don't think, is Anaheim Ducks, the long-time hated enemy of the Edmonton Oilers and other Pacific Division foes, who have now gone 23 straight home games without winning one. 23 home games in a row.
Coach Aikens.
Wow.
Chop wood, carry water, man. That's unkind.
Carry water, right resume.
That's unkind.
Prepare 3 envelopes.
I hope he does well, Dallas Aikens. He's a sharp cookie. Yeah, but
he got dealt a bad hand there here in Edmonton, and he got dealt another one in Anaheim. I mean, it's hard to imagine 23. They got a few betting points in there, but they haven't actually won a game. Maybe it's just in regulation they haven't won one. This is one I just read on Twitter. So maybe they stole a win, but they haven't actually beaten anybody in like 3 months. It was January. Was their last home win. Literally January. Now it's May.
Yeah. Some rough performances from those former and future Pacific Division teams, Bruce, which bodes well for next season with the Oilers. So Monday night is the next game?
Yep, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, all against Vancouver.
Where are they, home and away, or?
They are, first 2 are in Vancouver, and the next 2 are here.
Okay.
So,
alrighty.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Anaheim won 3 games in overtime in that span, and 1 in a shootout. But the last home game they won they beat an actual team in regulation time was January 24th. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So,
yikes. Yikers.
Too bad they're not in our division this season. That they finally really stink because they've put a lot of hurting on Western Canadian teams in particular over the last 15 years.
Oh yeah, and every time I see Bieksa on TV, I just think of them too. I just those hateful games where the Oilers got screwed by the refs. It just comes freshly to mind. Oh well, Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast, sponsored by Bruce's Red Mug. Cheers. Fist bump. Hey, my fist wasn't showing. There we go.
All right. See you, Calgary.